So, with the NBA regular season coming to an end, I thought I'd go through my NBA award picks and then after that quickly go through my All NBA and All Defense picks. So, let's just start off with MVP. And for MVP, I have Nikola Jokic number one. And then number two, I have Joel Embiid. And number three, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. So for me, Jokic, I chose him because, led the Nuggets to a winning record, a really good record without Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I mean, the stats are just insane. The regular stats, 27 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists a game, great efficiency, and then he leads almost every advanced stat. So, just all around a really great player, and I think he deserves to win MVP this year. Moving on to Defensive Player of the Year. Here I picked Jaren Jackson Jr. number one, and then Gobert number two, and Giannis number three. So I picked Jaren Jackson Jr. because he leads the NBA in blocks per game. He also leads it in total blocks, and I think, at his size, he has great versatility where he can protect the rim and is one of the best rim protectors in the NBA, but he's also comfortable switching out onto the perimeter. So just the overall package, his versatility, how good the Grizzlies have been on defense and in the blocks and things like that is why I chose him for Defensive Player of the Year. For Rookie of the Year, I went with Scotty Barnes, number one, Evan Mobley, number two, and Cade Cunningham, number three. I chose Barnes because out of the three, the Raptors had the best record, and despite going through injuries and a lot of things like that, Barnes was there for them all season, and he was always a good player. He started at point guard, he started at center, he started at every position. He was asked to do so many different things, and he was able to do that. The offensive rebounding, he can play make, he can dribble. He was comfortable shooting, even though he's not the greatest shooter, and then he was also a really solid defensive player. So, in a complicated defensive scheme with the Raptors. So, yeah, I went with Scotty Barnes, Mobley number two, and Cade number three. And then for most improved player, number one, I went John Morant. Number two, I went DeJounte Murray. And number three, I went Jordan Poole. So I chose Morant because I think the hardest leap is from sort of a fringe all-star like he was last year, or maybe even a bit worse than that, and then to this year where he's a superstar, where the Grizzlies are great with him, even though they're also great without him. But I think the leap he took, the playmaking, how he can get to the rim and score at the rim, I think it's really impressive, and I think he was the best candidate. Just a massive jump in almost all the regular stats. Then for Sixth Man of the Year, I went for Tyler Hero, and then number two, Kevin Love, and number three, Cam Johnson. So I think Hero's the easy choice here. Just the scoring and how, he's one of the Heat's most important players coming off the bench, especially with his scoring, because they don't really have someone who can shoot from three and from the mid-range like him and create. He's one of the Heat's most important players, one of their most important creators. So I think he was a pretty easy choice for a Sixth Man of the Year. And then for Coach of the Year, I went for Taylor Jenkins of the Memphis Grizzlies, and in second, Monty Williams of the Phoenix Suns, and in third, Eric Spoelstra of the Miami Heat. There was a ton of coaches in contention here, but I think I went for Jenkins because, the Grizzlies, a young team. I don't think anyone expected them to be that good, and obviously Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. a big part of that. But I think Taylor Jenkins, they all still went through injuries to some key players, and they're always a good team. They're always playing hard, and I think, I give the coach a lot of credit for that. So I went for Taylor Jenkins. Then it was close. So Monty Williams, number two with the Suns. What he's done now for 2 years in a row. Again, they also suffered through injuries. Almost every team did, but yeah, lots of deserving candidates. This one was really close, but I went for Taylor Jenkins of the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, all NBA teams, not really going to do too much explaining, but just go through them. So first team, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Nikola Jokic. Yeah, pretty easy here for me. Wasn't too many debates. Obviously, there's a thing where maybe you put Embiid at 4 to get both Embiid and Jokic, but, back in the 60s, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell didn't both make it to the All-NBA first team. So I think, it also just worked out better because if you put Embiid at 4, then a forward misses out. And yeah, so I just kept it at center. So the second team is Steph Curry, John Morant, Kevin Durant, Pascal Siakam, and Joel Embiid. I think all the picks are pretty self-explanatory except for Siakam, who I think has had a great season this year. The playmaking, how he can get to the rim, how down the stretch he's been the Raptors' key guy, how he can close out games for them, and yeah, just the overall package. I think I put him narrowly ahead of DeRozan and LeBron for second team forward. And in my third team, Trae Young, Chris Paul, DeMar DeRozan, LeBron James, and Karl Anthony Towns. So yeah, pretty self-explanatory picks there. I think those should be the All-NBA teams. I think when the votes are going to happen, I think either LeBron or DeRozan will get Siakam's spot for second team, and Siakam will be third team, but I went for Siakam. And then quickly, all defense. First team, Marcus Smart, Mikal Bridges, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Rudy Gobert. And then second team, I went Fred VanVleet, Drew Holiday, Herb Jones, the rookie for the Pelicans. He's been great defensively this year. Bam Adebayo, and Robert Williams. So yeah, those were my NBA award picks. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to this channel for more NBA content.